Alrighty. Hello everybody. This is Kirusho here, and now, before we do start, let us give a brief little review. In the last part, a number of events have happened. Now, Deku, him, Mina, Ken, and Inko. They are currently in a secret plumber facility on Earth. After the lights went out and emergency power kicked in, alarms began to alert people. Deku, he woke up late at night after his grandfather gave him something to rest. And Izuku, he was quite alarmed. Right now he thinks he knows what's going on with the entire situation. Ken, however, thinks there might just be a problem with the reactor. And they need to check it out. Ken talked to Izuku earlier that day, and his grandson, he was not doing well. Izuku said Ghost Freak escaped his watch. That does not sound possible. Izuku started rambling on about the future. That is impossible as well. Meeting a future version of yourself? He's been to space, met aliens, done a few things, and seen a lot in his life. However, the idea of going to the future time travel does not seem possible to him. And that does say quite a bit. However, he did somewhat listen to Izuku. He saw Izuku go through the Omnitrix and try and find Ghost Freak, but he wasn't in the lineup. And Ken, he is going to at least take a security precaution against that, because his grandson said something that did not make sense. Ghost Freak does not like the sunlight. Now, with that being said, Izuku, he feels like he knows what's happening, but really, he only has one of a few puzzle pieces. Now, currently Deku, he is trying to talk to Mina, and the two, they decided to stay in one room together just in case something does happen. And that does mean quite a bit. Now, Inko is currently locked and confined in her quarters, and she is not happy about the lockdown, especially because her dad locked her in here. And that does mean quite a bit. Now, Deku and Mina do sit there, and Mina herself is a bit concerned about Izuku. However, she herself has been a bit more focused on a few things. Currently, Deku going to look down at the watch and somewhat fumble with the dial, as Mina does sit there reading her book quietly. And the two, they are waiting, and Deku, he has to bring his hand down, him grabbing his plumber badge and staring at it for a second, thinking about calling his grandfather. Now, currently Mina does turn her head, staring up at Izuku. And Deku, he does have that look of seriousness on his face. You okay? I'm fine. But I think Ghost Freak is out there. You sure? I'm very sure, Mina. Listen, like I said before to my grandpa, Ghost Freak escaped the watch. I mean, I saw him. I met him. His face was twisted and his hands. He was a monster. He was scary. He was going to hurt me, Mina. Now, Mina does stare at her friend. She went to the future as well. So, Izuku talking about all this and mentioning Vilgax's return, from what he does say, it does mean quite a bit. She understands that Deku, he's been through a lot this year as well, especially over the summer. Though, she's a bit on the fence about believing Ghost Freak being out of the watch. Though, she is practicing magic, learning more about her own abilities. And she does have one idea. Her flipping back through the book and actually going to land on a page. Her reading through it, as she is happy that this is the spell she thought it was. Now, she has to turn to Izuku. Her talking about how she is going to need to look into his head. Huh? Yeah, there's a magic spell that allows me to read your emotions. Wavelength? I don't fully know. I think it allows me to read your mana. It'll tell me if you're telling the truth or not. Really? So it's like a lie detector. I think so. I haven't used it in practice before, but I remember I read something about it in here and I thought this was it, right? Though there's also this teleportation spell I found and a few more. I mean, a lot of these things in here are actually pretty powerful. Though, if I'm gonna master this stuff, I need to use it. So you want to use a lie detector spell on me? Sure. But I mean, if I can at least confirm it, we can talk to your grandpa. And I think that would be good. Now, Deku does a turn. Him going to set down his badge and tell Mina that that works. And Mina, she's a little surprised at Izuku's conviction. And that does help her do one thing. She does get a few things set up. Her currently going to actually sit back down next to Izuku on the bed and turn herself. Her reading the spell, mouthing it out, and then going to turn to Izuku. Her bringing her hands up to his face as her cheeks do get a bit red. And right now Mina does stare directly at Izuku's eyes. Her going to focus as her hands do somewhat start to glow. Right now her eyes going to turn pink. Now, Deku does sit there as well. And over his eyes do going to turn pink, she actually does continue to focus, pouring some energy into the spell. Now, Mina does get a look at it. Seeing everything, she just has to ask one question. Does he believe this thing got out of the watch? And right now Mina, she does see the whole thing. She begins to experience things from Izuku's point of view. The joyride, the separation, the fear. And Mina, she actually will pull back after a minute. Her a lot more alarmed, as she herself does a turn and grab down her Plumber's badge, jumping up and immediately alerting Ken. Izuku saw Ghost Freak. Now, Ken himself does a stop. Him, currently with a team of plumbers, as he does try to at least bring his hand down and bring it up with his badge. Mina, now is not the time for jokes. Listen, whatever is happening, I used a spell from the book. There's a spell inside the book that allows you to... What? I used a spell and I saw through Izuku's eyes. I could read his emotions, feel his emotions. He saw that thing. Now, right now someone, they do a turn. Them hearing a sound as they go running off. And Ken has a turn himself. Him at least going to give orders to advance to the core and they might be able to find out what's happening. Now, Ken, he does try and radio back in with a few more of the squads. Right now one of them, they are back up on top of the base. And they've got a few things going on. They're staying where they are because once they turn the power back on, things need to be re-regulated. And if that is not done right, it could go bad. Systems need to reboot properly before they go automated. So they might have to activate the manual release, especially if things are going to overload. If they overload. This is not a good day. Now, Ken has started radio back into one of the teams, and he does get a response from one team. However, the secondary team, they're absent, and that does somewhat alert him. As trying to use a turn and yell out for his squad. However, he doesn't get a response. And he does at least going to bring his hand up. Him going to actually hold up his weapon and advance forwards. As the man, he doesn't get a response back. Hello? Come on, respond. Now, right now, Ken, he doesn't hear a sound, turning his head as he does see something floating there. And it looks a lot like Ghost Freak. Now, the thing is to float forwards. And Ken, he does not like that. This thing looks creepy. However, he's going to bring up his weapon and fire at it. The thing going to have a hole blasted right through it as it is then destroyed. And Ken, he's a lot more surprised. That was easy. Him looking down at his weapon. Though, plasma. Nice. Okay, so that should be. I'm going to turn. Right now, something swiping away at him as he's sent flying backwards, smashing into the wall. Him hitting down to the ground as he has to look up. Right now, him going to see Zscare. And Zscare does a turn and fly off. Him laughing maniacally. And Ken's more alarmed. As right now everybody is going to get back onto his feet, he has a turn hearing the sounds of the creatures coming towards him. And right now he's going to run over. Bending down grabbing his weapon, he has a turn and run off. And right now he has to try and radio back in, since he does believe Izuku. However, if he's right about this, is he right about Vilgax? Now, the thought has crossed his mind. However, right now he is trying to limp away because he is full of adrenaline and full of concern. And Deku, whenever he does get the radio back in, he has to do one thing. He does going to run over to the door. Right now him going to try and get out as he does input a code. It's not being accepted as he does try to tell Izuku the code he changed the doors to. And that is not very good. Now, Deku, he is going to input the proper code. Him watching the door slide open as the door, it does then go to close. Now, Deku, he actually has a turn. Him going to try and run off, as right now he does have an idea. Him going to actually bring his hand up and press down to the dial. Him spinning it around and going to actually bring his hand up, pressing down and turning into Heat Blast. And Izuku, he does go flying down the hallway. Now, currently Mina herself does a turn. Her walking over and waving her hand out in front of Izuku's door. Her watching it fly open as Rendo says look around. Her seeing the hoverboard as she has a smile. Now, she's going to walk inside. And currently she does go to grab it and turn. Her going to fly off after Izuku. Now, Mina actually has a few things going through her head. Conserving her magic if this is the proper problem is efficient right now. Don't use it unless deemed necessary. Though Ghost Shriek's weakness is the sun. Maybe she has a flashlight spell. That could definitely be useful. Now, currently Deku and Mina, the two are trying to make their way down to the lower levels. Meanwhile, as a scare, he is trying to find Izuku. He wants to see where the boy is. However, whenever he got to the quarters and he didn't find Izuku, he became annoyed. Him going to actually fly back down through the wall. And he does then go to move further and further, zigzagging between certain rooms before he finally starts to hear something. Him going to actually go down through the floor and see Izuku. Him currently flying down the hallway as he does go to give a crooked smile. And the man, or creature, it does it to get pursuit. Now, currently Deku, he does make his way down to the lower levels of the base. And Zscare, he gives chase. Izuku is his prize. Once the two do merge, everything should be back in order. That currently is running through Zscare's head. However, whenever he does see Izuku in his Heat Blast form, he thinks the best thing to do is to wait for the timer to run out. However, there is an easy way for him to stick close to Izuku and make sure he's safe. Because Heat Blast, he produces some awfully powerful flames, and that is not very good. Now, currently Deku and Mina, the two of them are both flying down the hall. And Izuku, he is trying to keep his flames low and steady, but also make sure they are powerful enough to fly down the hallway. Him right now crouched down, and on a piece of rock he pulled out of the ground. And Deku, he is thinking, the base can be repaired. Hopefully. Now, currently Mina is flying behind him on the hoverboard. However, they're actually to scare. Who does go to leap into Mina, as right now Mina does get somewhat freak out for a second before her body is in his control. And right now does continue giving chase. Now, Deku and Mina do start to encounter some of the ghost freaks. And Izuku, he does bring his hand up. Him blasting away at one, as right now Ghost Freak, he does just continue to avoid. Right now him messing around with the board and going to actually try and fly upwards onto the ceiling. Him bringing Mina's hand down and grabbing onto the board to stay on. And currently Deku's to turn his head watching Mina. As she's going to fly down the hallway past the freaks and catch back with Izuku. Her flying right past him. And Deku, he's kind of a bit impressed. As the two eventually do come upon Ken. Now, the man is limping down the hallway. And whenever Izuku does see him, he does a leap off of the rock as it does go flying past both of them, and he does bring his hands down. Him gonna stop and run over, asking him if he's okay, bringing his hands up before pulling his hands back, realizing he can't physically touch him. Now, Ken is gonna turn talking about it. His team was taken by those things, and it's not good. It's bad. Whatever is happening, Ghost Freak is involved. Him trying to tell Izuku. He was right. He should have paid more attention to his warning. Though, that is not the problem right now. There's more of them in here. And Deku does hear about that. And it's kind of concerning. Now, Mina just did a laugh. And Deku does go to turn his head. Currently, her bring her hands up as Deku does a stare at her purple eyes. And Izuku, he's definitely a lot more concerned. Right now, Ziscare going to laugh out and express, "Isn't it so fun? I mean, he could have taken him over any instant, but he didn't. Instead, he tried to go straight for his prize. Though, if he's correct, they've only got a few more minutes until he times out. And how long do they have now? 30 minutes until the lights go all the way out? Whenever that does happen, his species will take control of the Earth, and then they'll plunge it into the dark, properly take over cities, and blot out the sky. He shall make a kingdom to rule, and his minions will create it before him." Now, Deku's a turn. Starting his grandpa, not really too sure what to do, because Ghost Freak is in Mina. And Mina doesn't bring her hands. Her blasting away with her Anodite powers, as right now Deku, he has to bring his own hands up. Him gonna blast out towards her to try and stop her. And right now, Deku, he actually has to try and push her powers back. However, her abilities, they're pretty powerful. And Izuku, after he has to dodge out of the way, the blast flying down the hallway and smashing into something, Ken is gonna bring his hand up. Him holding up his weapon and blasting out at Mina. Ghost Freak bringing his own hand up and blocking away the energy beam as it does a bounce off the shield, smashing backwards into the ground. And Deku, he actually had to rush forwards. Right at him, rushing towards Mina and blasting at his hand. However, Ghost Freak does bring up his own hand. There is where he has to make a shield, and he does his head blasting backwards. Not expecting Izuku to actually attack Mina this way. Now, Mina does go flying backwards, smashing onto the ground, a lot more alarmed. Her gonna turn back as her face has returned to normal. Her staring at both of them confused, and asking about what's going on. However, Ziscare does start laughing again. Him staring at Izuku, and they're gonna actually throw Mina back up into the air. Him landing on her feet as they talk about it, bringing his hands up and blasting at both of them. About what exactly this might actually mean. Now, Deku, he does try and dodge, bringing his own hands up, and trying to attack. However, he is starting to hesitate again. Mina's a hostage, but she's also the attacker, and he's not too sure what to do. Now, Ken, he does try to tell Izuku about a few things. Him currently going to turn and hold up a sun gun. Him bringing it up and blasting at Ghost Freak. However, it doesn't work. And Ghost Freak does get a turn looking at the bona fide flashlight. However, Ken, whenever he does actually hear something, Ghost Freak does get a turn himself, bringing up his hand and alerting his minions to attack the plumber. Keep him distracted. As Deku does go to hear a sound, the Omnitrix starting to beep. And that is not good. Now, Ghost Freak does stare at Izuku. Mina smiling ear to ear. As right now, Ghost Freak does get a turn and bring his hand up. Him gonna get ready. As Deku's gonna revert back to a human, and Ken has a turn looking at Izuku. Currently, the freaks flying towards him as is a turn, bring up his weapon and blasting at all of them. Many of them going to disappear as some try to move and evade, and one currently is flying towards Mina. And Ken, he has a turn seeing that. Ghost Shriek flying to get Izuku. Now, Ghost Shriek just smash right into Deku. However, he doesn't flat out possess him. And Deku, he feels strange being covered in this strange thing. And right now, Deku, he does try to push and pull Ghost Shriek away from him, getting him off of him. And Mina is disoriented. Right now, Ken could actually turn and rush over to her. Him bringing his hand up and pushing her out of the way. As Mina's at a turn, being sent flying onto the ground with the weapon. And the freak does a grab to get onto Ken, morphing him into one of the other creatures. And Deku, he has a look up, staring at his grandfather being transformed into a Ghost Shriek. And he does just don't scream out. Right now, Izuku going to actually get angry, as the Omnitrix is to release a powerful EMP burst. And Ghost Shriek is sent flying off of the watch as he is hit by sunlight from the burst. Now, Ghost Shriek does go scream out. Him angry and a lot more alarmed. And Deku, he has a look down at the Omnitrix, which does go from red to green. Right, Deku bring his hand up, pressing the button, and then gonna bring his hand up again, smashing down onto it this time. And Izuku, he saw Heat Blast. However, he made one fatal mistake. He panicked, and instead of being turned into Heat Blast, the Omnitrix just decided to turn him into Stingfly. And Deku, he's not happy about this. Now, he has a turn looking at Ghost Shriek. Him going to turn and fly towards Mina. Him picking her up as he has to try and fly at the top of the hallway. Now, Mina is to bring her own hand up. Her blasting away at them with the gun, as currently Deku and her, they do fly away. And Deku, he's not too sure what to do. And Ghost Shriek, he does sit there a lot more annoyed. It didn't work. It didn't work. The Omnitrix. It recharged. But that was fast. No. There's got to be a mistake. He had Izuku. He could feel it. He could feel Izuku's actual fingers bending to his will. I see. It's a game. He has to make sure the watch runs out of power and is left in a permanent recharge. At least for a while. Until then, it does mean that he'll win. Just take him down every time he times out. Though, it will take a few tries. And that, it does annoy Ghost Shriek. As currently Izuku, he's going to fly into a elevator shaft after he pulled it open. Him going to actually grab on Mina, turn and flying up as Mina is trying to talk about a few things. And Deku, he has yet to say a word. And right now she actually is a lot more concerned. Right now the two getting away and finding a place to hide. They can't get out of the base. And that's very bad. Though, hopefully they can find the team. Somebody, someone, anyone who could help. And it does mean quite a bit. Now, Deku, whenever they do come flying to the surface, there actually is where they do find the last team that's here. And whenever everyone does see Izuku as Stingfly, the Omnitrix does begin to start beeping again. And Deku, he does not like that. Now, Mina does just don't stand there. As Izuku does a turn back into human and try and tell the plumbers about what's happening. And the plumbers, yeah, they are skeptical. However, Izuku's claiming that the Magister, he was taken down. And in fact of the matter is, Mina has a sun gun. And the only people who have access to tech like that, who know what tech like that is, should be a Magister. Or at least a plumber. Something specifically made to fight creatures that do not like the sunlight. So, the claims Izuku's making, they do have some backing. Though without proper tech, they can't tell the situation. They can only use their badges and try and monitor things that way. But that's getting a lot worse because power is about to go out completely in 3 minutes. And that's really bad. However, Zuko himself is beginning to panic and freak out. And there actually is a scare. The scare is to talk about it. Right now, him could actually phase it through the ground and grabbing a plumber. Him possessing them as the person, they do actually start to turn. Them blasting with the other plumbers and shooting many of them dead. And to scare it is to laugh maniacally. Someone blasting into his body as he is struck in the shoulder. The man going to actually scream out in pain as he has to take back control. The other plumber going to stare at him after they do go to bring up their weapon. The man turning to look at his friend as the plumber, he has to turn his head pulling the trigger. And right now the man is blasting the chest and sent flying backwards onto the ground. Ghost Shriek flying up and out and smash right into the person. Then being sent flying backwards up onto a console before rolling off. And the man, he actually has to lay there for a second. And trying to fight Ghost Shriek as the man said to take control. Ghost Shriek going to bring his hand up, bring him to the console and pulling himself up. However, when he does so, he has to bring his hand down. Him blasting at the consoles and trying to take this thing down, making sure the lights do go out. And right now he does a turn staring at Zuko. And Mina does a stand there, as the scared is to summon his minions. Now, whenever that does happen, Deku and Mina are left back to back. And right now the Ghost Shrieks are closing in on both of them. And Mina's going to bring up the sun gun. Deku actually going to turn and bring his hand over, telling her not to fire it. And Mina, she's a lot more alarmed. And Deku's going to turn back to the Omnitrix, talking about how she might hit Grandpa. And Deku, he is pressing the button, and the scared is going to float forwards, expressing about the little thing that happened before. And Mina's a lot more concerned. Right now, her going to actually turn to Deku as she tell him to hold on to her. And he does understand. Him bringing his hand up, grabbing onto her as she's bringing her own hands up. Her pulling the two off of the ground and sending them flying up into the air. And Mina does actually fly through the air and send them smashing up onto the second level. Right now the two going to actually fall back down to the ground as Mina does this don't laugh. Her bringing her hand down and looking around. Her crawling over and grabbing onto her book as the scared is going to float out of the ground. Him yelling at her about what to do. And Mina is going to bring her hand back. Her actually bring up her other hand and blasting out as a scare as the man is to duck into the floor and dodge the beam. And Mina does like that. Because that blast was meant to be powerful. To burn bright. And that does tell her a few things. The scare got lucky. Hopefully, he got lucky. Right now, her going to bring her hand up. And going to turn back. Walking over and begin to flip through her book. Her at least going to ask how they're going to make a plan if they can't use the weapons to take these things down. And Deku, he thinks that taking down the scare might turn everyone back to normal. Because it's kind of the only option they have. Take all the things down and you kill every plumber that's in the space. Oh god, is his mom one of those? Now, Mina doesn't see it flat out go on Izuku's face. The realization, the possible horror, the implication. And Mina, she finally does find the right thing. Her going to actually turn to Izuku and say a phrase. As right now, him and her, the two of them, they do disappear. Them disappearing in a flash of light, as Ghost Shriek, he has a turn looking down at his minions, and forming all of them to search the base and find them, but bring Izuku to him. He wants that watch. He wants the power. He wants the world. Now, the minions do get to fly down to the ground, and currently the rest of the Ghost Freaks, they have their task. And the man, he has to sit there, him staring at the timer counting down till the lights go out. And right now Deku and Mina, the two of them, they do appear back in the lowest level of the base. And Mina, she currently has actually fallen to the ground. Deku gonna turn and bring his hand up. Him gonna actually trying to catch her as he actually collapses onto the ground. And Izuku, he's concerned. As right now, Mina, she's passed out. And Deku, he does feel a pulse. However, it's not too good. Now, currently Deku, he does actually still sit there. Him gonna turn and grab the sun gun. Him pressing the button and trying to think about what to do. There's not a lot of options left. I mean, no, 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 no. If he can't take down Ghost Freak, Mom, Grandpa, everyone else in the base, they could be taken down, infected, turned into these things. This is all his fault. And Deku, he does want to sit there, tears forming in his eyes. He wanted to be a superhero, and he's gonna destroy the world. All because of this stupid freaking watch. Now, Deku's a turn looking at the Omnitrix. Him trying to press the button as it is yet to be fully recharged. And Deku, he actually a turn smashing his fist directly into the wall, trying to hit the Omnitrix to see if it will work again. And someone they really don't appreciate all of that. As Deku does hear a voice. You know, if you were going to treat it that way, I would have made it a little different. Him going to turn his head. Who are you? Well, I had trouble finding you, but locking onto you is a little bit harder. Though, I guess I can understand why. Your friend there, she's incredibly powerful. Must be an Inidite. So who are you? Are you here to finish me off? Did you do it? Did you release Ghost Freak? Oh, heavens no. I didn't, child. However, you are the wielder of my Omnitrix. Your Omnitrix? You are Azmuth. Ooh, he does have some brains in there after all. It's not funny. No, it isn't. So, I have some questions before I try to help you fix this. Try to help me? Wait, you're gonna help me? Yes, I am. Though, fact of the matter is, the alert I was given shouldn't have even gone off. It was supposed to be for... You know what, never mind. That'll be a while from now. Anyways, listen. Whatever's happening, I gotta know. How did the watch disappear for a day? How did you unlock my Omnitrix? Understand more about it. How did you... Can you stop? Excuse me. Can you just stop? How about this? Ask me whatever you want later, but right now, we need to stop this. Deku gonna actually freeze. And Azmuth, he does stare on. Him annoyed. Lovely. Time Walker, why are you here? Now, currently Azmuth is at a turn, and Professor Paradox does a step forwards. Well, you do understand I do not wish to be here voluntarily. However, I do have to. What do you mean? Well, you see, Azmuth, it is a lot for you to really understand. Are you mocking my intelligence, Paradox? No, I am not. However, you are very impatient. You think, being the smartest mind in 5 galaxies, you would have actually learned patience. You've learned everything else. I'm not amused by your line of questioning. Now, Time Walker, if you are done here, oh, I am far from done. Fact of the matter is, this boy here has many questions for you. Many things you two are going to talk about. In fact, I'm going to walk over, bending down and staring at Izuku. You know, I never really do understand. Was this how I met him the first time? Or was it the last time? It all does get quite confusing. Hammering his hand out, grabbing Izuku's left hand and pulling it forwards, bringing his right hand up and beginning to mess with the Omnitrix. And Azmuth does to ask him, What exactly is he doing to his device? Oh, no, no, no. I'm doing something that you'll do later. However, I am not giving an update. I am just... Oh, there we go. What did you do? Oh, well, you'd be quite happy to hear about this. I'm giving him access to a few other things that you are going to need. However, I do have questions about you, Azmuth. Exactly, do you want to answer his questions? Solve this problem? We are actually in paused time or frozen time. You know, we could talk for a while. Time Walker, just stop. Now, if you're going to be interfering anymore, at least tell me. Give me a word of warning. Oh, no, no, no. You see, why would I do that? However, you do have to understand. Him turning back to Izuku and putting his hand back where it was. Everything that I'm doing right now is quite simple. Though me and you will have to chat later. He is quite important. Huh, you say so. I do, yes, very much so. So be a bit patient. The human emotions, the human experience, I may have lost it long ago, but I still do understand whenever I went mad once. Quite boring. Though going mad again the second time around was a little bit more interesting. A lot more to think about, you know? Skeptical. Of course you are. Anyways, now, please take care of those creatures, talk to the boy, and calm him down properly. At least that's how things do go. Also, do be aware. What he's asking about is the Celestial Sapiens. You know, just to correct that little mistake that you're going to make. I don't make Wait, how does he... Ah, yes, yes. The reason I'm here, of course. Time travel. Spooky little thing, isn't it? You don't fully grasp the concept yourself, do you? Now, Azmuth does a stare directly at Paradox. Him a lot more annoyed. And right now, time to resume. Deku, still freaking out, as right now Azmuth does gonna tell Izuku to stop. And about how exactly they're gonna do things. Since Ghost Freak, him being released from the watch is not a good thing. And right now, Azmuth, he's gonna hate this. However, he does try and calm down Izuku. However, he does so quite poorly. Deku, he's very reactionary right now. And with Mina passed out, he's left on his own without his grandfather, family, or plumber support to fix this threat. And that does mean quite a bit. Now, currently Azmuth does start talking again. And Izuku, he doesn't sit there, kind of, breaking down. As he finally does a look up, whenever Azmuth does a jump up onto his leg and grab the Omnitrix. Him staring at the thing that's right there. And right now, Azmuth, he does press the button and then push down. Izuku turning into a Galvan. Him looking down at his hands as his eyes are still teary-eyed. Azmuth stepping forwards. You do understand me a bit more clear now, don't you? How did you... Alright, listen. What you're facing off against is quite simple. I've already helped you by doing quite a lot down here. Now the hard part is taking him down. He's after you. However, there's a failsafe in place to stop him from taking you over. Do you fully understand me? Now, human adolescent. I do, yes. Good. You've put away those little bit of emotions. No, I haven't. Is she going to be alright? Izuku walking over. Him burrowing his hand up and checking her pulse. As Deku also does try and monitor her breathing for a second. And he does find that she's quite okay. Though, that spell must have taken a lot out of her. Especially because she's out like a rock. And that does concern him. Is Deku going to turn and try to ask Azmuth if they can put her somewhere safe? Since, Ghost Freak, he'll be after her too. He'll use anybody he can to get to him. And Azmuth, he does understand. Stepping forwards and trying to talk to Izuku again, telling him about how to fix the problem. Since he already does know one of these problems that happened with the Omnitrix wasn't a glitch. Apparently it involved time travel. Now, currently Azmuth, he's got a lot going through that little head of his. As he has to bring his hand up, walking over to Izuku. Him pressing the dial on his back as Deku, he does a turn into forearms. Him looking down at his hands, surprised. Now, currently, there actually is where Azmuth does try to tell Izuku about a few things. Talking about how he is going to need to do quite a lot to take down Ghost Freak. However, he does want him to understand. This is not going to be permanent. What did you do? Now, Azmuth is going to tell Izuku, press onto the dial and do one simple thing. Focus on an alien he thinks can be used to take down Zeskare. And Deku's a turn. Zeskare? Ghost Freak, as you've called him quaintly. Now, do it. Azmuth's going to turn. Him actually seeing Deku bring his hand up onto his shoulder and think. Now, Deku's a turn. Him going to actually pull one of the metal components off of the walls and put Mina inside. Him bring it back up as he does actually press onto the dial. Him slamming down onto it as he's thinking about Heat Blast. Now, Heat Blast is a turn into, or forearms is a turn into Heat Blast. And currently, there actually is where Azmuth is a turn to Izuku. Now that could work. So how do I take him down? Simple. You have to expose him to as much light as possible. Sounds simple enough? It does, but what else could I do? What do you mean? I can't take everyone else down. They'll die. I just want to take down Zeskare. So, could I have master control? No. Right now, Azmuth has stared at Izuku a lot more intrigued, since he knows that it exists. A celestial sapient master control the Time Walker? He definitely has questions. Maybe the Omnitrix didn't fall into the wrong hands. Now, Azmuth is going to walk over. Him expressing to Izuku. Perhaps it is a good idea for right now. Have access to all of his aliens. And it'll allow him to at least see something. Now, Deku does bring his hand up, turning back to normal as Azmuth does do one simple thing. And Deku, he does quite enjoy this. As right now, Wildmutt, he is running through the hallway of the base, the sun gun clenched between his teeth, as he has a few things going through his head. He needs to isolate Zeskare and get this all right. Without the lights, then he's got a few problems. Though he's got to last till how long? No. It's what? 1:30 something past 1 in the morning, so everything should be fine. Power's been out for a bit of time, but things are okay. Let's see. If he's right, then it's gotta be around 2, maybe later. A few more hours till daylight. Though this entire place is sealed off. No, they can get out. That's the problem. That's the main issue. Now, Deku, he currently does a turn looking around, and he doesn't sense anything. However, Zeskare does actually fly down, smashing right into Izuku. And Deku, the moment Zeskare does do that, he is actually trying to turn. Him running into one of the walls and smashing right through it. As Zeskare, he is a lot more annoyed. Especially because Izuku, he's got some fight in him. And right now the two, they are trying to battle for control. Now, Deku does a turn directly into Heat Blast. Right now, Zeskare a lot more alarmed as he doesn't feel himself burning. And Deku, he actually to bring up his hands. Him blasting at Zeskare as he's turning to accelerate. Him staring at the guy as he bring his hand down, running forwards towards the Sun Gun, bring his hand out and bring it up. Him blasting as the scare does a scream out. Him currently not very happy about that. Now, currently he's gonna fly through the roof. And Deku, he does gonna immediately turn into forms, jumping up into the air and smashing through the roof. Him bringing his hands up as he's actually blasted at Zescare. And Zescare, he's a lot more annoyed. Currently, he's trying to give no chase to Izuku, running away and trying to get somewhere where he could be safe. But Deku, he's not really allowing that. And Zescare, yeah. He is having seconds to rematerialize himself from the light particles. But even then, he is still being weakened. And he is in immense pain. Now, Deku, he does have an idea. The scare keeps going up and up and up. But then the man flew up through the ceiling. And Deku, yeah, he did not like that. Though he did have an idea. Him going to actually think of himself as human. Him timing out, quote unquote, as a scare, he does a peek back through and looking down. Him staring at Izuku as Deku's look down at his hands. Him currently going to do one thing, turning and running off. Now, he doesn't want the scare to flat out leave this entire facility, focus on the world and come back. He needs to dangle himself out in front of him like bait. Make sure he knows Izuku is still a prize. And that's going through Deku's head. Currently, him running through the base and trying to at least hide from the ghost shrieks. However, it's easier said than done. Now, Deku, whenever he does find some of the ghost shrieks, he has to actually try to just avoid them. But he knows that the scare is just behind him. And that is not fun nor easy. Deku currently running down the hallway as he does get a turn looking around. Right now, him in a turn, looking at a stairwell as a ghost shriek is flying towards him. And Deku, he has to run towards it. Him going to actually throw his hands down and throw himself down. Him sliding across the ground and going to actually bring his hands down, pushing back up. Him thinking Wild Mud as I turn to the creature. Him leaping at the walls and then going to actually run down the staircase. Now, this does somewhat alarm the creatures. But Deku, he's not trying to harm anybody because of the idea that they could be Grandpa or Mom. And that's just not crossing his mind. He has control of the Omnitrix, so he should be okay. Okay, but what could he do? What could he do? Somebody, someone. Wait, that's an idea. The backup generators, the solar display. That's right. Get Zescare to the solar display. I mean, turn into upgrade, turn them on. Full power, it could fry him. But it could also fry him too, right? That on Deku's mind. I mean, the solar array is meant to be activated outside, but they need sunlight. Lots of it. Maybe going outside isn't a bad idea. Now, Deku, he actually just trying to think. And currently he's as scared as I see him just turn back around. Him turning to accelerate and running away. Now, the scared does think that he loses Izuku. But Deku, he does find one simple place to hide. The command center in the very top floor, where Zescare found them all before. And Zescare does have a comment on it. Izuku currently staying there, surrounded by a few pieces of debris and weapons, as the man does tell Izuku. Perhaps he is not as intelligent as he thought. And Deku tells Zescare. Maybe he's wrong. Though, he wouldn't really know. Would he? Deku bring his hands up, and Gon doesn't smile. And Ghost Shriek just started to laugh. Since Izuku, he's timed out of the Omnitrix. Yes, he can run around as much as he wants all night, but the base is locked down. And without proper sunlight, he can't do quite a lot. He's just stuck there in the dark. And Deku, he does tell Zescare. Perhaps he's wrong. Deku turning to upchuck and turning. Him consuming the weapons as right now his stomach just started to glow. Him turning and looking up, blasting directly up, smashing into the ceiling of the base. And currently the base is at the top blown open. And to scare, there's a turn looking up. Him, afraid that there might be sunlight, however it is just the night sky. Him yelling at Izuku as Deku's turned into Stinkfly. Him flying up into the air and out of the base. And to scare, yeah. He does give chase. If Izuku is alive, perhaps that might be the problem. Perhaps a freshly deceased host is a proper way of looking at it. A way to walk in the sun, keep the body just barely alive, but barely dead. You see, now there's something he hasn't thought of yet. Now, to scare, he does continue on. And Deku, he does lead him on a bit of a chase, taking him around the forest and trying to make sure he doesn't know where they might be heading. Because if he is just a thing that lived inside the watch, maybe he didn't hear anything about what happened outside in the real world. Though he's never used Ghost Shriek here. And that does help Izuku with a lot. As and the two, they do come up to the solar array. And Ghost Shriek, he does actually fly forwards. Him staring at Izuku and yelling at him about what he might be doing. And Deku, he has a land rolling and smashing onto the ground. Currently, him pretending to lay there, as Ghost Shriek, he has a fly forwards. Him getting ready for his victory. Because Izuku, he must be unconscious from that blow. Especially because he did tumble quite hard. Now, the minutes go flying forwards. And Deku, whenever Ghost Shriek does get right up to him and begin to actually fly down, his turn directly to accelerate, getting onto his feet and zooming backwards. Him rushing forwards, leaping up into the air, as it turned into Heat Blast. Deku continuing his momentum and going up high and high into the air. As Ghost Shriek does a turn, staring at Izuku. Him a lot more annoyed, as Deku, he is actually going to bring his hands up and increasing the heat more and more. And currently Deku, he lets all the fire he can produce out. As Heat Blast does turn into a miniature sun, and Ghost Shriek, he's stuck in the middle of a reflective solar array. Now, Ghost Shriek is being hit by light, and currently, he does not like it. As Izuku does a fly down and smash right into Ghost Shriek, grabbing onto the plasma creature as he is being burned up by parts of this entire beam. Now, Deku, he has a grab on a Ghost Shriek, ask him what's wrong. And Ghost Shriek, he has a fly up into the air. Right now, him being pulled apart by the reflective surfaces as they're producing tons and tons of light. And Ghost Shriek, he is ripped to shreds. Before Deku, he finally does go to just sit there for a second. Him a lot more alarmed, panting heavily, as right now he has a turn back to Izuku. And the area around him, yeah, it is scorched. However, the base, it also does have its own problems. Everyone inside, they do begin to return back to normal. And Azmuth himself, he is quite happy that the boy, he found a way to take down Ghost Shriek. However, there is one more thing he does want to discuss. And the two, they really, really should talk about it. Now, with that being said, right now Izuku, he does talk to Azmuth. And Azmuth, he is more intrigued about a few things. However, the fact of the matter is, he does check the Omnitrix, just to know what Paradox may have done to it. And whenever he does see a few things, he does understand. I mean, the boy talks about Vilgax coming back, the boy talks about how he went to the future once, how he knows he'll encounter Vilgax again, and about what's going to happen pretty soon. And that does mean quite a bit. Now, Azmuth, he does give Izuku the Omnitrix. He lets him keep it. However, he does take away Master Control. And Deku, he is a bit annoyed by that. Especially because he realized how fun that thing actually was. Now, with that being said, Azmuth does leave the planet. And Izuku, he does actually talk to his mom about a few more things. And the Plumbers, they try to get everything settled back up. Now, with that being said, currently Deku has a lot going through his mind. And that does say quite a bit. Inko is quite annoyed about the Omnitrix simply just existing. The fact that it is quote unquote stuck to her son, and the creator of this thing isn't going to take it back. However, the Plumbers, yeah, they're quite happy to have somebody like Izuku on board. Though, he does need to go through proper training, proper routines, proper everything. And that's something that they are going to begin to do for him. Now, Deku, he does live a relatively okay few weeks until there is the end of his summer, where Vilgax, he does return. Him back at full strength and definitely wanting his revenge, because the Omnitrix, it will be his. But Deku does one very, very simple thing. Whenever Vilgax does come to try and take it, Izuku, he uses Way Big. And Vilgax, yeah, today was not his day. Deku brings down the hammer, smashing Vilgax like a bug, and going to do one simple thing. Whenever the Null Void projector is brought out, Deku, he does just throw him through it. And Vilgax's ship, it does fly off into space. Deku watched them leave behind their leader. Now, Deku does still stand there as Way Big. Him with a lot going through his mind. His mom knows about the Omnitrix. He knows a lot more about it. He talked to Azmuth, learned quite a bit of things, spoke to him about quite a bit of things, and the two, they'll relatively be in contact soon. There's a lot he wants to learn about this thing. However, with so much work, there's not a lot of time. Though, that's just the thing. Inko, now that she knows all this stuff is happening and it exists, and Izuku, he'll be at the center of it, she's not really too sure. I mean, this is bad, but aliens are real. Other dimensions are real. Magic is real. And that is... maybe she needs to lie down again. That's currently going through her mind. Inko just needs some more time to process all of this. However, seeing how Izuku handled Vilgax, this world-conquering madman, he might be fine. At least, that's the hope. So, for right now, she just wants to let her dad know. If anything happens to Izuku, keep her informed. Now, Ken, he does promise, but at the same time, he's got to be very careful making promises like that. He's well aware. Though, he is grateful that he did at least help repay a debt. He was willing to sacrifice his life for Mina. Now, with that being said, Deku, he currently is tinkering away on the Omnitrix. Him going to actually try and dial in a new alien. And currently Deku, he does look down at the dial. Him staring at the bizarre creature on the watch, as he does watch the tendrils shoot down the sides of its head. And Deku, he has to bring his hand up and press down the watch. Now, with that being said, Izuku's summer is at an end. And with that, we'll be stepping into the actual Alien Force stuff. Now, for those of you who are still here, yeah, 19 parts for an entire summer, and that's just not even scratching the surface of the story. I'm going to do a lot more in the story, and I do hope this at least does set up my Alien Force stuff. So I'm going to at least have to probably title this one Summer is Over or something like that, just to show all this actually did build up to something. Anyway, guys, I do hope you enjoyed. And have an amazing day. I'll catch you guys in the next part.